right, welcome to section 10.5 or 10.1. Okay, within this section, we're going to be dealing a lot with square roots. So at the beginning, you're going to find it's going to state something like find the real square roots of the number. Okay, so what times what makes 5? Well, or 25, and we know that 5 times 5 makes 25. But the other thing you will need to know is -5 times -5 also makes 5. So you will have the answer plus or minus -5. Now, what about -16? And this one's kind of a trick. You can never take the square root of a negative number. So there is no solution. Can't take the square root of a negative number. Then from the verbiage, you're going to go to the square root sign, which looks something like that. And that says, what's the square root of 69? And they only want the positive answer. They didn't say find all the real roots. They just said that find the square root of 69, which is something slightly different. But for the most part, you are always just going to be finding the positive answer in this section. You might move on to what looks like this, a fraction. And all you have to do is break it up into two parts. What's the square root of 1 over the square root of 49? Okay, well, square root of 1 is 1. What's the square root of 49? 7. So you can have 1/7 as the square root. Now here you could find something that says, what's the square root of 64? Okay, well, that negative, you just bring it down. We don't care. And then you multiply it by the square root of 64. So the answer does become -8. What happens when we do variables? So what times what gives me x to the 8th? Okay, and that is x to the 4th. Now I will talk a little bit about something else going on that makes that a little bit easier later on in this section. Okay, now again here, you could have a combination of both things. So that's the same as saying the square root of 25 times the square root of x to the 8th. Okay, well, the square root of 25 is 5 times the square root of x to the 8th is x to the 4th, so you'd be 5x to the 4th. Okay, so you just take each thing individually and you do them individually. You also might see something that looks like this, okay? The square root of 371 with these little squiggly signs behind them, okay? And that means approximately what's the square root of 371, and you're going to type that into your calculator. And this is the only time you will give me a decimal answer, is when you see these little wave signs. And that tells you to give me an approximate answer. I don't think you will see the approximate answer on the test, so just remember, we typically don't use it. I will want an exact answer, and we will get into that later in the chapter. Okay, but we don't just deal with square roots, we deal with cubed roots. And so this is a cube, this is a 4th root, this is a cubed root. And that just means, this just means we need 3 of the same number. So what times what times what is 27? Okay, and if you put that into your calculator, you will get 3. Okay, before, over here, no solution, can't take the square root of a negative number. Well, guess what? We can take the cubed root of a negative number, okay? Because -5 times -5 times -5 is -125, all right? And then this would be x to the 3rd. And I know it's x to the 3rd because 9 divided by 3, so the 9 comes from here, goes here, and this 3 always goes into denominator, making it that. So you have -5 over x to the 3rd as your answer. Okay. Now, what about taking the square root or the fourth root of this number? And you could type that number into your calculator. If you just did the positive answer, you would come out with a 16. But because of that negative, there is no solution. So and what it amounts to is you can never take an even root of a negative number. Okay, so long as this number here is even, you can never take its root. There will never be a real solution, right? But if it's odd, like over here, you can come out with a solution. So another example, what is the cubed root of negative 27? And that comes out 3. And then I would have x to the 15 divided by 3 and y to the 9th divided by 3. All right, so you would have negative 3 x to the 5th and y to the 3rd. All right. The section isn't too bad, but it's the beginning, and some of these rules that we've got that you can't take negative square roots, these rules are going to have slight variations on them in the up and coming chapters or up and coming sections. So email me or ask me in class if you have any questions.